Hey guys, this is Vince from Practical Performance. This is the fourth of a series of short videos explaining the VinceBar and the front gusset cups. If you haven't seen the other ones, please go ahead and do so before viewing this one. I left off the third video of sort of having more or less showed you the installation. In this video, I'm going to wrap it up, summarize, talk about the benefits of the VinceBar and the gusset cups, and also a few final installation tips. So let's actually start with the installation tips. In this case, I have the weld-in VinceBar fitted, well, actually partly fitted. I wanted to point out that because of this strip back here that ties the wheel well kind of skin here to the bar, and you want it as tight as possible, you will have a situation where we're pushing the, let's see, I probably need to use the flashlight. There we go. We're kind of pushing, yeah, you see there, the whole, we're pushing the VinceBar forwards. You don't want that to be the case when you're drilling your holes for the rivets, or in this case, you're plug welding and that stuff, and surface prepping. So what you want to do is pull it backwards and use, as I was kind of talking about earlier, the wheel bolts. So using a wheel bolt with the cone there, once you get it started, and I have that other one kind of on its way already, and let's see if I can show you this. As I tighten this, you should see how it goes not only down, but also slightly backwards because of it's pushing it in place. Not sure how much that kind of showed, but that's the general idea. So you have it tightly screwed down onto the carrier panel. It's in place. Now you do the other work around there. One other thing is, I was talking about how you want a tight fit between the lip you left here. There's actually a dip there, there's an indentation, so that one's lower than you typically see. But let's see if this shows this one right there. I drilled a 3mm hole there. You can see there's a gap. We don't want that gap. So in the case of the rivets, they will actually pull them together as they're clamping, but we're welding here and we're doing the plug weld. So using these screws that I supply, I hope I can show you how. Let's see if we can get some light here. It's not working very good. Let's see if you can still see it somehow. No. This is, well, we'll give it a shot. So the idea is you tighten this, it pulls. Actually, you can see how this is moving upwards slightly, and this is moving downwards. There you go. And we tighten that. You plug weld, and you kind of do every other, or every, I guess every other. Sorry, there you go. So we tighten this now. These are tighter together, so you can plug weld those. Then drill another hole, have another screw. So I was thinking probably every other hole you get a screw in, and then when you plug weld those, it's sitting tighter. You can unscrew this and then plug weld that as well. Okay. Now moving to the other side. Here I have the front gusset cup. In this case, it's a epoxy rivet one. This is again the weld version with the larger holes and the more holes. What I've done here is I used again a wheel bolt to tighten it down. Before I did that, I pulled this skin out, so sticking the fingers into the hole and pulling this out, because you want these to be as tightly clamped as possible. I also saw there was a gap here, so I actually bent this slightly downwards, then screwed it in, so now it flexes back. I also used a hammer like this to slightly tap and get it as tight as possible, essentially. And over here, again, please ignore this hole. This is something I I drilled to have a look at the inners of the and look at the subframe mount, the base plate there. Anyway, that would be not the case. There would be no hole, but you need to hammer this down as well, like that. At this point, this is where you want to drill the holes. And after that, you would be doing your surface prep and applying the epoxy, and then tighten it all back together and clamping the rivets, sorry. Okay, so that was the final installation tips, I guess. Now let's just kind of summarize. So what does this stuff do? Why is it good? Well, if we go back again, have a look at the bar. Remember in the first video how I was talking about the subframe mount, which is underneath this bolt here on the down bottom side, how that is like pulling and pulling and pulling, flexing back and forth. There's videos online where you can see how this whole section here is kind of floating up and down and flexing. More so when the spot welds start popping, and it creates more and more flexibility. So the reason is we're applying the force over here, and this is kind of flimsy sheet metal. This is more or less a solid part, the chassis leg. We want to take the force from here, the load from here into here. Right now, the load path without the VinceBar is going through the sheet metal up into this single layer piece here. There are a few spot welds there. It goes underneath here over to this part. This is spot welded together with another layer. There are a couple of spot welds here. And then on the outside over here, it's these spot welds here holding. This is the rear axle carrier skin, and this is a thicker piece of sheet metal from the wheel well. So this is where they're spot welded together. So there's not a lot going on there in terms of supporting it. The VinceBar, well, with this sturdy piece here, this is a 50 by 25 millimeter with 3 millimeter thick walls, the rectangular tube. Takes it to a 2 millimeter thick end plate here, which is attached to the chassis leg. So we're sort of supporting and reinforcing that. And we're using this piece here. Technically, you'd only need this part of the VinceBar for the load path to take it from there directly into here, rather than the detour through these spot welds. But if you did that, you would create a moment. There would be a torque kind of bending it like this, and still allowing flex. So therefore, having the complete bar like this, have to be tons and tons of load in order to bend this with that short lever. So this is essentially going nowhere. So it's pretty much rigid, and it's taking the force up into the chassis leg. And all of this is completely hidden underneath the trunk interior. So once you have your interior in your car, it's going to be covered with the floor and the side pieces and so on. So only when you actually open that up and show your spare wheel, or I don't know, get your M mobility kit from your M3. This is a 320 again with the spare wheel well. You will see this part here, and once you have it covered up and painted and everything, it's looking great. Actually, speaking of which, I do remember there's one more thing, one more tip in terms of installation. Remember how I was talking about getting these lips, the ones behind here on the bar? I think it shows probably better right there, right behind this part here and that part there. So why you want to do that is, once you have the bar down in there, you want to press this down. Well, actually, let me do that. Down against there, drill a hole through, and either screw them together for welding or use your rivet. So therefore, kind of like that, if it makes sense. With epoxy as well, if you're riveting. So not only are we adding tons of strength, we're removing as little as possible, as we're still connecting this up into that part through the bar here, we're connecting the spare wheel well tub here to the part up here through the bar once again with that strip of metal there and this one here. Okay, so that was the rear, that was the bar. So we're stopping the subframe and the rear axle from pulling and flexing this whole sort of tub area here on the backside. That's going to be stopping any further cracks and stuff on the underside. But we also had this situation up front where we had the subframe pushing up like this on the underside of these mounts onto these, I should get something better to point with, onto base plates here, the mounts, the threaded holes. And this actually is welded into a separate piece of structure here, which is then spot welded to the skin, the rear axle carrier skin on the underside. Now, so we're pushing this up and down and up and down. And also, you may remember I was talking about how the control arms from the wheels connect into the subframe, which connects around here as well. So as we're cornering, those will be pushing back and forth like this as well. So we're kind of tilting and pushing and pulling this back and forth. Now, rather than having it just sit in the skin on the bottom and this piece of structure here with a few spot welds, what we're doing with the gusset cup is we're reinforcing this top here where we probably have some cracks. You're doing that with the bottom of this cup is a 2mm thick sheet metal piece, and you're gluing that together with the epoxy and clamping it down. But we're also adding this kind of gusset piece here, the tube that comes up. So as you do that, and we clamp the nut down onto it, and sandwich it all together, we're now getting support from all of this structure as well. And we're reinforcing this layer here, we're kind of boxing it all together. So we're using more of the car's structure to sort of, you know, take care of that load, essentially. That's what we're doing. So it's partly an up and down kind of situation, but it's also in a lot of ways the tilting and back and forth like this. That's the benefit of the front gusset cup, and again, this is completely hidden behind the rear seat. You can use your car as just a... Actually, the least exciting part with the VinceBar kit is that once you installed it, you have nothing to show for it actually, unless you start taking your car apart, which I actually see myself doing from time to time just to kind of show what I've done. And I know some other customers as well. But, you know, if you're looking for flashy bars and stuff like that, that's not what we do here. This is all about usability and function. And, you know, practicality, keeping the practicality of the car, practical usability. I believe I spoke about how we clamp this together, get that done. Someone's gonna get a pre-formed piece here. It's gonna be probably a bit exciting finding one that's preformed and one that's not. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, guys.